Welcome to SVG-TV News for Wednesday, February 14, 2018. I am Yvette Bowens with the details. Former Prime Minister and founder of the opposition New Democratic Party, Sir James Mitchell, says the recent fiasco in Parliament over the opposition's no-confidence motion and the government's amendment to the motion should have played out differently. On January 31st, there were about 3 hours of back and forth between members on the government bench and those on the opposition bench, along with Speaker of the House, Jomo Thomas, over whether to proceed with debate on a no-confidence motion brought by the opposition. A decision was taken to do so. However, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves interjected and made an amendment to the motion, which was allowed by the Speaker, turning the motion of no confidence into confidence, which was passed in the absence of the opposition members. Speaking on the matter on Boom FM this morning, Sir James, who has been a parliamentarian for over 35 years and the leader of this country for 16 years, says that he had 2 motions brought against him in the past and that it is important to have these matters played out as they should. Sir James said that while he holds in high esteem the views expressed by some legal minds and constitutional experts on the matter, including former Attorney General Queen's Counsel Parnell Campbell, Grenadian Francis Alexis, and former NDP Senator Linton Lewis, he said they are incorrect with their take on the matter.
I respect the intelligence of the PM. I respect PR, I respect Alexis, and I respect Linton. But they have all, in their own time, in my view, not always been correct on constitutional matters. Let me remind my good friend PR that when we won all the seats, in accordance with the Constitution, and he, PR, came to me and said, well, it don't look right, we must appoint some senators, you know? And the section on the appointment of senators says very clearly that the leader, the government, the Prime Minister makes recommendation to the GG to appoint 4 senators and the leader of the opposition to appoint 2. So PR wanted me to appoint 2. I said, but PR, I am not the leader of the opposition.
Sir James noted that motions of no confidence decide whether governments can go forward or not and should not be slighted.
PR gave precedence to a budget debate, as I understand it. A budget debate must have precedence over a no confidence motion. In my book, we can be wrong. I respect PR's thinking. But in my book, I'm making my case before the jury, before the people of St. Vincent. My case is that a motion of no confidence decides whether a government is there or not there. You have to re-establish when a motion of no confidence is tabled. It is incumbent on the government to prove that they have authority to bring a budget.
But even when you know for a fact that this motion of confidence will not get anywhere, that they will lose this motion of no confidence.
No, well, go through the motions.
The former Prime Minister questioned whether the government did not want the motion on no confidence to be debated because of the Yugi Farrell saga and the call for Finance Minister Camilla Gonsalves to resign, which he said might have been damning.
But you see, let us face it. Look at the whole scenario. Why did the government not want the debate? What is it that brought this no confidence motion to the parliament? Were the government scared about talking about the element of fair in the society? Were they scared about talking about the quality of life? And that talking about the fair in the society might have involved Yugi Farrell? Come on. They're all components of the matters relevant in the society in the time that could have been discussed in the parliament without interfering with the court.
The opposition continues to poke fun at the country's economic surplus, reported by Minister of Finance Camilo Gonzalez in his presentation of the 2018 budget. At the party's People's Budget presentation on Tuesday evening, Member of Parliament for Central Kingston St. Clair Leacock said with over $300 million in wages and close to $70 million in pensions, total tax revenue earned was strained.
From tax revenue and non-tax revenue, a total of $619 million. But it has to expend $776 million to pay and to do all the things on the recurrent side. Obviously, very, very obviously, that can't happen. But some things must happen. For example, the government must pay public servants their $302 million worth of wages, and it must pay them their pensions of nearly $60 million. That alone takes up 58, nearly 60% of the budget to take care of those 6,000 public servants. But then it must go on and pay $62 million in interest and $137 million on the principal of what it borrows. When they do those four things, Mr. Speaker, we have spent 90% of the budget. 10 cents left on the dollar to run the rest of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Leacock is also of the opinion that by not having enough to spend, there is a lack in various sectors of the economy.
It explains why the police don't respond as they should when you have a problem with the police. It explains why the transfers to Bragsa doesn't happen. It explains why the transfers to the Tourism Authority does not happen. It explains why a range of goods and services that you should be entitled to does not take place. I hope and trust, Mr. Chairman, that a picture begins to unfold that our people must come to grips with. And I try to speak to it later in my presentation. And that really is the relationship between the government and its people. And that relationship is that increasingly, because the government takes $30 million worth of taxes and revenue this year more than it had last year, is that year after year, the government forces its hand further and further down into your pockets to take care of themselves.
As the Argyle International Airport marks its first year of operation today, February 14, 2018, Chief Executive Officer Hadley Bourne said the air facility is on the cutting edge of technology in comparison to other international airports in neighboring islands. Bourne stated that the AIA has allowed a wide range of aircraft previously unable to land here in SVG to do so, adding that cutting-edge technology was in the construction of the facility.
I think I must thank the Tourism Authority. You know, it's not an easy task, and a lot of people don't really understand how you go about achieving air travel. Aviation is a business, and to have, even within 1 year, a schedule, what you would call legacy carrier like Air Canada, speaks volumes to the work that would have been put in achieving such, because it doesn't happen overnight. On the cutting edge of technology, I can tell you that we have some of the most modern equipment without going too deep. That's from the security aspect. From the other operational infrastructure, as you can look around, we have the FIDS and other aviation related. We have the Cube system for checking in, etc. So we are actually on the cutting edge of any of our neighbors. It would be remiss of us to build a new airport with antiquated technology. So I can tell you, Sheridan, even in our jet bridges, the mechanisms on our jet bridges, the automatic controls, they're modern. If we look at some of the other jet bridges, we have the latest in everything. That would say, let's say that would be manufactured within the last 4 to 5 years.
Meanwhile, some of the staff working at the Air Traffic Control Tower said their experience at the Argyle International Airport has been an excellent one thus far. Chief Air Traffic Controller Leda Oliver said during the first day of operation, there have been no major issues at the facility. Oliver also expressed satisfaction with the fact that operations at the air facility have not been hampered by windy conditions.
One of the things we anticipated would have been a factor would have been the wind, right? But so far we haven't had any issues with the wind. Even though it's strong at some times, we still continue operations. So like currently the wind is strong. In times like these back at E.T. Joshua, we would have had to suspend operation because of the tailwind factor. We're able to use both runways at Argyle, so in the event that the wind direction changes significantly, we can use either runway. Another plus is the apron space. We have more space on the apron to park aircraft. December was a good example of that.
The air traffic control staff who spoke with our news team took the opportunity to highlight their impressions of the facility.
Yeah, I would say that the Argyle International Airport, working here has been a better environment. The upgraded facilities would foster for safer and more efficient air traffic with the operation of both runways and also the assistance with the winds. Well, in aviation there's always room for improvement, but you know, finances is one of the bigger aspects that we really need to look at now. But with time, I think that we'll be getting more developed, having more traffic coming through, which would boost the economy eventually, and that would foster for further development of the country on a whole. Currently, more staff would be good.
I used to visit the E.T. Joshua Airport from time to time, and now I'm working at the Argyle International Airport and seeing much bigger planes and more flights. It's an exciting experience. Just the other day, Amerijet landed and he did a 2-2 departure, which is very rare, and it was a beautiful sight. Took a couple pictures, and in a few years I can see the airport advancing and becoming known internationally. It just takes time to get there, so you just have to take our time and build and see what we can do.
Patients at the mental health facility at Glen today received much needed love and attention from members of the public as the facility hosted its Flower for Family initiative. Speaking with SVG-TV News, acting senior nursing officer at the facility, Elizabeth Medford, expressed satisfaction with the response of the public, noting that such activities can have a positive impact on the patients.
Today is a very, very happy day for us and for our patients, and we just want people to know that there's so much that they can do as a society and a community to support those persons suffering from mental illness. We are starting the process of reintegration of mental health into primary care, and we want everyone to be on board, because it is what happens when the patient leaves here and go back to the community. If they don't get the support and love that they need out there, then we're going to always have them coming back. But once the society understands that a little touch, a little kind word, a little understanding, a little education on mental health, but most of all that love. Trying to understand mental illness is just like having sugar, having pressure, right? It is a real condition, and the way that the community responds to the individual on their return, it has a lot to do with them being well and remaining healthy and functional in the community. So I'm so overwhelmed today.
A number of persons who took the opportunity to participate in today's event to visit and share love with the patients at the facility praised the staff at the Mental Health Rehabilitation Center for their work.
So I said, you know what, let us go, let us try and make it to go out and see. Roseanne John is a child that we came to see, and she was eating and she reminded us of her mother, really, you know. So I'm happy that I came. At least I feel a little joy and overwhelmed of what I'm seeing going on. So to God be the glory, you're doing a great job and continue to do it.
One would bring a little flower, a little smile, or a little word of encouragement. It would help a lot. These nurses, kudos to the nurses. It's not easy. It's not easy, but kudos to the nurses. And in these times, they really need us. The patients need us, most of the nurse need us to help them to cope and carry on with this business. And I hats off to Sister Moffat and those that gone on before.
And it wasn't like this. It has been a lot of improvement. Thank you all. Thank the government. There's a lot of improvement. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. It is a great improvement, wonderful, wonderful, gorgeous, gorgeous. And I just want to say, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing that what you all are doing.
Some patients at the facility took the opportunity to thank the public for their support as well as the staff at the facility for their continued care.
Thank you all for being here this morning and afternoon to give somebody have uses to me, how I've been left out here alone. Only now and
you're not
thank
alone.
you very much, this love, okay, now.
Yeah.
Bless you too, honey.
Yes, that's how we do it. Very good, very good.
Lovely.
Very nice, Jade.
I have been around for a long time and I see the improvement. Thank God for the strategy and ministry and the well-educated people of this country. They are doing a good job. And I also have been around for a long time. I want you a lot, but by the grace of God, I learned to be comfortable. I appreciate the patience in them. And I thank God and pray that you all do a lot of help.
As part of efforts to strengthen the quality of service delivery in the education sector, as well as to improve skills training and labor systems procedures in the country, a $28.7 million multi-sector project was launched here on Tuesday, February 13, 2018. Dubbed the Human Development Service Delivery Project, the initiative is managed by the Economic Planning and Sustainable Development Division in the Ministry of Finance, in collaboration with the Ministries of Education and National Mobilization and the Labor Department. Nikita Tony tells us more about yesterday's launch in this report.
Financed through funding from the World Bank, some 28.7 million EC dollars is expected to be spent for the implementation of a Human Development Service Delivery Project, or HDSDP, here in SVG. At an official launch held last evening at the NIS conference room, senior economist Louis Tash outlined that the HDSDP has three main components and is expected to be implemented over a 5-year period.
Looking at strengthening the pedagogy for basic and special needs education, and this component would cost US $2.16 million. Second component, we're looking at building responsive social protective service delivery systems. This is allocated US $3.46 million. Third major component would be strengthening labor market systems and improving skills training of poor and vulnerable populations. This component is allocated US $3.84 million. Government would not co-finance this project. However, the government will provide in-kind contribution to support the successful execution of the project.
Task Team Leader at the World Bank, Sinej Plevko, deemed the project as a very important intervention that is being undertaken by the government of SVG.
Every single group of our counterparts, how deeply home-based these reforms are, how much dedication there is in all of these ministries, agencies to really go ahead with these reforms, to come to this green slide at the end of this way and to be able to say this or more has been accomplished.
With the Caribbean Development Bank supporting the 2018 Country Poverty Assessment Project, which coincides with the HDSDP, Operations Officer at CDB, Albert Ellis, outlined that both interventions are critical to the development and enhancement of the SVG Sustainable Development Agenda.
that CDB's Enhanced Country Poverty Assessment, the CPA program, will support St. Vincent and the Grenadines' efforts to strengthen systems for empirical social data collection and analysis. It reaffirms the bank's commitment to assisting its board member countries, or BMCs, including St. Vincent and the Grenadines, to produce timely and good quality social and poverty data.
Commending the government of SVG for initiating work under the project, Director of the OECS Commission, Dr. Didicus Jules, stressed the significance of statistics in making informed and strategic decisions.
Being able to very scientifically determine what needs are priority, where do we need to target those needs, how best to position those resources is going to make a huge difference to the efficiency of government and our ability to lift our people out of poverty. So rather than just give to all, we can give in meaningful ways to those who need it most.
Minister of National Mobilization Frederick Stevenson noted that the launch of the project marks a very important milestone in the government's attempts to improve and advance social safety network programs.
Imperative data becomes the nucleus for future operations and investment and will be a considered pathway to continuous assessment. I look forward to the continued work of the World Bank and the CDB and the OECS in St. Vincent and the Grenadines as we seek to move and advance the social safety network program.
Minister with responsibility for economic planning and sustainable development, Camilla Gonçalves, outlined that he looks forward to the level of information which will be gathered through the project, which will in turn aid in the way a number of social issues are addressed here in SVG.
I apologize to my team for my initial skepticism, and I thank the Caribbean Development Bank and the World Bank for their excellent work in partnering with us, in helping to convince me and in crafting a program that is tailored to the very specific needs and challenges of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and hopefully tailored to very real, lasting solutions.
The Human Development Service Delivery Project will seek to improve the efficiency of social promotion systems as well as the effectiveness of labor market systems in this country. Nikita Tone reporting for SVG-TV News.
Tuesday's launching ceremony of the Human Development Service Delivery Project also saw the launch of the Country Poverty Assessment Project, which is set to roll out this year. Given an overview of the CPA project, Chief Statistician Gaitlin Roberts said the assessment coincides with the Human Development Service Delivery Project, as it will provide data to support all three components of the HDSDP program. She added that through the use of quantitative and qualitative research methods, the CPA will determine the characteristics, extent, geographic concentration, severity, and causes of poverty here in SVG.
Randomly selected households from 187 enumeration districts throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines are expected to be interviewed over a one-year period. A one-year period is necessary for the collection of data, particularly for the HBS side of it, because we have to measure the different time periods throughout the year so that these spendings can be adequately reflected in the basket of goods for the Consumer Price Index. Statistical Office, we have established a small advocacy team, and this team is working along with personnel from the OECS Commission, and we have had assistance from Statistics Canada. It's our task to point out to them how they can use the output from this process, not only on an individual basis, but how collectively that information not only assists them, but assists the entire country, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Roberts further called on all members of the public to give their full participation and support to the process.
And the public that the success of the CPA project depends on everyone involved in the process. And by everyone, I'm speaking about the respondents, the communities and institutions that would be targeted, the data collectors who play a very important role here, the data analysts, and the policymakers. I want to encourage each and every one of us to participate fully in the various components being implemented. The poor and vulnerable persons in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are counting on us.
As the Garifuna Heritage Foundation prepares to host a week of activities centered around building awareness for the Garifuna culture during National Heritage Month in March, the organization has indicated its pleasure in being the host of the inaugural meeting of the Network of Indigenous and Tribal Peoples of the Caribbean region. Slated to run from March 11 to 12, the meeting, according to President of the Garifuna Heritage Foundation, David Darkey Williams, comes after a seminar held where a network comprising of representatives of indigenous peoples, organizations from across the region was formed. He added that the meeting is indeed a great addition to the scheduled week of activities.
A tentative committee to look after what the next step will be. And well, at least we agreed that the next step would have been the formation of a body called the Caribbean Regions Network of Indigenous and Tribal Peoples. The preparations have been done, and that committee is ready to proceed with the next step, and that is putting an organization together. And they have chosen St. Vincent and the Grenadines, land of Garifuna, to host this first meeting, which I believe, among other things, would elect an executive.
Williams pointed out that the network of indigenous and tribal peoples of the Caribbean region is based on the need to have a stronger voice, strengthen solidarity, and have a more effective influence on policies that affect these indigenous peoples. He further added that the Garifuna Heritage Foundation is confident that the meeting will aid in further developing the network as they hold consultations and evaluations.
The meeting would see representatives coming from Belize, and Belize is a country of several different indigenous peoples. From Belize, Trinidad and Tobago, from Dominica, from Suriname, from Guyana, and from other regions or countries who have an interest in what is happening in the Caribbean, and particularly highlighting to Vincentians the continuing existence of tribal peoples across the Caribbean. Look forward to having a grand time with our friends, our brothers and sisters, and we hope that this meeting would be a success.
Police here are investigating the circumstances surrounding a shooting incident involving Leroy Barrow, a 25-year-old laborer of Green Hill, which occurred on Tuesday. According to reports, Barrow received a gunshot injury on his left hand by some unknown persons about 3:35 p.m. The Green Hill man was later taken to the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital and is reported to be in stable condition. The police are also investigating a burglary that took place in Old Montrose between 7 a.m. and 5:45 p.m. on Monday, February 12, 2018. According to the police, Public Relations Department Gideon Miller, a 77-year-old showkeeper of Old Montrose, reported that some unknown person or persons entered his home as a trespasser and stole over 10,000 EC dollars in cash. The burglars reportedly gained entry through an open window on the southern side of the building. Police are encouraging persons with information regarding this burglary to contact their nearest police station, The public is also asked to report any suspicious activities that they may observe.